These 10 legendary rock voices from the 70s and 80s will take you straight back. USA nostalgia. When music has soul, fire, and unforgettable grit. Which rock voice gave you goosebumps the first time you heard it? Springsteen's raw energy, Janis's aching wail, or Ozzy's dark whisper? Back when radios crackled with raw emotion, and every song told a story you swore was written just for you. We revisit 15 legendary rock voices from the 70s and 80s that shaped our youth and maybe still give you chills every time you hit play. Ozzy Osbourne, Prince of Darkness. If you grew up with a rock radio blasting in the 70s or 80s, chances are you still remember the chilling voice of Ozzy Osbourne. He wasn't just a singer, he was a feeling, a sound, and a moment that defined what it meant to be wild, fearless, and boldly different. Born in Birmingham, England in 1948. Ozzy came from a modest working-class family, but once he took the stage with Black Sabbath, everything changed. Songs like Paranoid and Iron Man didn't just make waves, they made history. With heavy guitar riffs, haunting lyrics, and powerful messages, their music reshaped the rock landscape forever. Ozzy's voice had a raw, gritty edge. It was part cry, part scream, and deeply emotional. It spoke to young people searching for meaning in a world that didn't always listen. Even after leaving Black Sabbath, Ozzy continued to blaze his own trail. His solo career gave the world unforgettable tracks like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. For many fans, those songs were more than hits. They became personal anthems. Though often surrounded by controversy, from his infamous bat incident to a turbulent personal life, Ozzy's unique charm never faded. Through his reality show, The Osbournes on MTV, he connected with a whole new generation and became more than a rock legend. He became a cultural icon. Despite growing health challenges, Ozzy never turned his back on music. On July 5th, 2025, he reunited with Black Sabbath for an emotional farewell concert in his hometown of Birmingham. Seated on a Gothic throne shaped like a bat, he performed in front of nearly 45,000 fans, pushing through the effects of Parkinson's disease with resilience and heart. Just a few weeks later, on July 22nd, 2025, Ozzy passed away at the age of 76. He left behind a timeless legacy, a powerful reminder that music can express darkness, intensity, and deep humanity all at once. Ozzy Osbourne will always be known as the Prince of Darkness, but to many, he was also the sound of youth, rebellion, and memories that will never fade. Bruce Springsteen, 1949, the voice of real America. Bruce Springsteen wasn't just a rock star. He was, and still is, the heartbeat of the American working class. Born in 1949 in New Jersey, Bruce came of age in the post-war years when dreams were big, and so were the struggles. His music captured the soul of small towns, late-night diners, rusting factories, and the endless search for something better just over the horizon. With songs like Born to Run, Thunder Road, and The River, he didn't just entertain. He told stories that felt like our own. He sang about young love, hard work, missed chances, and the ache of leaving or staying. His gravelly voice and poetic lyrics made people feel seen, heard, and understood. In the 1980s, Born in the USA became one of the most misunderstood anthems in music history. While its chorus rang out with pride, its verses told a much sadder tale of lost youth, war, and disillusionment. That was Bruce, always honest, never afraid to show the cracks beneath the surface. Springsteen concerts weren't just shows, they were spiritual marathons, full of sweat, soul, and heart. For many, Bruce wasn't just the boss, He was the friend who sang what we couldn't say and reminded us that even in our darkest moments, we're not alone. Alice Cooper, the master of shock and sound. Alice Cooper, birth name Vincent Fournier, born in 1948 in Detroit, is an American rock singer, known as the godfather of shock rock for blending heavy metal music with horror-themed and theatrical stage performances. He began his career with a high school band called the Earwigs, which later became Alice Cooper, gaining attention for their bold and eccentric shows. Under the guidance of Frank Zappa and producer Bob Ezrin, the band released notable albums such as Love It to Death, 1971, School's Out, 1972, and Billion Dollar Babies, 1973. After the group disbanded, Fournier legally changed his name to Alice Cooper and launched a solo career with the successful album Welcome to My Nightmare, 1975. However, his career declined due to alcohol and cocaine. Following successful rehabilitation in 1983, he made a comeback with albums like Constrictor 1986 and Trash 1989, while also acting in low-budget horror films and hosting the radio show Nights with Alice Cooper. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2011, leaving a lasting mark as an irreplaceable icon of American rock culture. Steve Perry, 1949, the golden voice of Journey. When Steve Perry sang Time Stopped, born in 1949, Perry became the soaring voice behind one of rock's most beloved bands, Journey. His crystal-clear tone, emotional delivery, and unbelievable vocal range turned every lyric into an anthem of love, longing, and resilience. Songs like Open Arms, Faithfully, and of course, Don't Stop Believin' weren't just hits. They were emotional lifelines. With Perry, every note seemed to ache with feeling. He didn't just sing. He poured his soul into every performance. Though Perry left Journey in the late 80s, his voice never left the hearts of fans. For many, hearing Steve Perry is like being transported back to a moment when everything felt possible, when love was fresh and hope played on the radio. Steve Perry's gift wasn't just vocal, it was emotional. And that's why, even decades later, his voice still echoes in the hearts of millions. Lou Gramm, 1950, the soul behind Foreigner's rock anthems. Lou Gramm's voice didn't just sing, it soared. Born in 1950, he became the unforgettable sound behind Foreigner, one of the biggest rock bands of the late 70s and early 80s. With his rich, raspy vocals and emotional delivery, Gramm brought power and vulnerability to songs that still echo through the decades. Hits like I Want to Know What Love Is, Cold as Ice, and Jukebox Hero weren't just radio staples. They were emotional cornerstones. Lou Gramm had a way of turning every lyric into something personal. His voice could be soft and searching, then explode into pure passion, all in the same breath. For many fans, hearing Lou Gramm meant rolling down the windows and singing along like the world was listening. His voice was the perfect mix of heart and grit, a sound that reminded you of the highs and lows of falling in love, chasing dreams, and trying to make sense of life's twists and turns. Even now, decades later, his vocals still bring back a flood of memories. Lou Gramm didn't just front a band, he gave voice to a generation's emotions. Were you more of an Ozzy Osbourne fan, or did Lou Gramm steal the show for you? Share your favorite voice from this golden era in the comments section so we can all know. Jim Morrison, 1943-1971, the Lizard King of rock and poetry. Jim Morrison wasn't just a rock star, he was a myth in the making. Born in 1943, Morrison fronted The Doors with a voice that felt both haunting and hypnotic. His deep baritone carried poetry, danger, and mystery all at once. He didn't just perform songs, he performed spells. Tracks like Riders on the Storm, Light My Fire, and The End turned radio waves into something otherworldly. Morrison pushed boundaries, both musically and socially. He was raw, provocative, and often unpredictable, a symbol of the rebellious spirit of the late 1960s. But behind the chaos was an artist with a soul that never quite fit in. He read philosophy, wrote poetry, and searched constantly for meaning. When he sang, you could feel the weight of every word, every pause, every scream. Jim Morrison passed away in 1971 at just 27, but his voice and presence have never left us. For many, he was the ultimate rock icon, a flame that burned fast, bright, and unforgettable. He didn't just lead a band, he led a movement. Janis Joplin, 1943-1970, The Soul That Burned. Too bright, born in 1943 and gone by 1970, Janis Joplin was a comet across the American sky, fierce, unforgettable, and far too brief. Her voice didn't sing, it roared, cracked, confessed. It was raw emotion wrapped in blues, soul, and pure rebellion. When Piece of My Heart, or Me and Bobby McGee played on the radio, the world stopped for just a moment. Janis didn't follow trends, she kept them down. With her wild curls, feathered boas, and heartbreak in her voice. She was the spirit of the 60s come to life. She wasn't perfect, that was the point. She made pain beautiful and freedom loud. Even now, decades later, her voice still gives us chills. For those who lived through the era, she was more than a singer. She was how we felt, but couldn't say. A fire that burned too fast, but left warmth that still lingers. Don Henley, 1947. The voice of desert highways and dreams. Born in 1947. Don Henley didn't just sing songs, he painted landscapes of American life. As the voice behind the Eagles' most iconic hits, he carries the sound of dusty roads, restless hearts, and sunsets fading into quiet regret. Hotel California, Desperado, The Last Resort. His voice was steady, truth-worn, and filled with quiet. Henley wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. His words landed like letters, never sent, memories never fully healed. He gave sound to the feeling of driving alone at night. Headlights slicing through the dark, a song playing low on the radio that seemed to know exactly how you felt. Even in his solo work, he stayed true to what mattered, telling stories that meant something. For those who remember the 70s, Henley's voice is part of the soundtrack of youth, of change, of growing up and realizing the world is as fragile as it is beautiful. Bob Seger, 1945. The raspy voice of American roads. Bob Seger's music feels like the open highway is endless, honest, and a little bit lonely. Born in 1945 in Michigan, Seger gave voice to the heartland with his rough-edged vocals and deeply personal lyrics. His songs were the soundtrack of long car rides, first loves, and nights spent staring at the stars. With hits like Night Moves, Against the Wind, and Turn the Page, Seger didn't chase fame, he chased truth. He sang of coming of age, growing older, and everything in between. There was always something deeply human in his voice, a gravelly warmth that made listeners feel like he was singing just for them. Bob Seger wasn't flashy. He didn't need to be. His music had a sincerity that couldn't be faked. Whether you were a factory worker in Detroit or a teenager in small-town America, his stories were yours too. They reminded you of old friends, lost chances, and the simple beauty of everyday life. Peter Frampton, the guitar that spoke. Peter Frampton, born 1950, Beckenham, England, is a British rock guitarist and singer, but his musical heart is deeply tied to the United States. Although he began his career in the UK with bands like The Herd and Humble Pie, Frampton truly rose to fame in America. His album, Frampton Comes Alive, 1976, turned him into a national phenomenon, an icon of 1970s American arena rock. The album not only topped the Billboard charts, but also became one of the best-selling live albums of all time, with songs like Show Me the Way and Do You Feel Like We Do heard on radios across the US. Frampton's energetic performance style, his signature talkbox guitar effect, and his friendly smile made him a familiar face in American pop culture. Despite later setbacks and a serious accident, he continued to collaborate with American artists like David Bowie and Ringo Starr, leaving a lasting impression on US audiences. Even when faced with illness, he chose to do a farewell tour in America, a heartfelt goodbye to the land that made him a legend. Time may pass, but those voices never truly fade. They live in every lyric, every chord, every memory etched in vinyl and heart. Which of these legends defined your youth? Let us know in the comments, and if this video brought back even a spark of nostalgia, give it a like, share it with an old friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more walks down memory lane.